Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
Yeah, well, so in my opinion, people should be using the OTAs as lead gen, right? So they're pulling in new people from Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com. But once they're in their company profile, if they have them in their marketing list, then they can use this badge to remarket to people. Anyone who's stayed on your property in the past, anyone who's coming directly to your website should be able to see that badge. So include it in your email newsletters, in your marketing materials. And if people are feeling nervous about traveling right now, maybe it's just going to take one email in their inbox because they've stayed with your property before, they had a good experience, and they just need to tick off again that last piece that's, I feel safe going there.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
All right, welcome back to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and today I have another lovely guest. For the first time in a long time, actually, we're in the same time zone, thankfully, actually in the same state. A lot of other guests are, totally, completely different time zones, so it's been nice to work with you. And so for all the listeners out there, knows that I'm in the vacation rental space, also hotels and just overall hospitality, but this is a topic I think is pretty important, obviously, with today's current, events of COVID-19. And we'll talk a little bit more about the birth of this. But today I have with me Jill, who is the owner of VRScheduler and also the cleaning certification. So Jill, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And as you said, I'm right down the road here in Leavenworth, Washington. So we're both in the Pacific Northwest, which is a fun place to be right now with COVID and all that's going on. That was a little sarcasm there. So yeah, I think we're lucky to live in a state that has so many resources in it in terms of, just the forward thinking of our government agencies. And there's a lot of, universities like the University of Washington that's putting a lot of research into what's happening and actually driving a lot of the decisions made. So I feel kind of fortunate to be up here in Washington State, even though we are dealing with, kind of a lot of the brunt of COVID and the pandemic.
Yes, exactly. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, the resources that you've found, obviously, to create what we're about to talk about. But before we get into that, I want to get into your background, your origin story. As my phrase is that, let's dive into who you are, your history, because I feel like it's always a great buildup and importance to what we're about to talk about and on how you got to the, current journey you're on.
Sure. Yeah. So my background is in tech. I have a degree in computer science and electrical engineering. So I'm one of those super technical people. I've had about 3 online tech businesses in the internet space. And I came to Leavenworth about 7 years ago and just sort of got myself immersed in the travel industry and travel culture. And we're a destination resort for Seattle. So I have a lot of friends and connections that own vacation rentals or manage vacation rentals or just work in the vacation space. Once I sold my last business, I sort of just started to see an opportunity for helping these people. All of the businesses that I've started have been with the intent of making businesses more efficient and more accurate. So that's kind of the origin story of VRScheduler. Is I just kind of stepped in and saw how these people were running their businesses. I actually owned a vacation rental myself, so I was sort of part of the culture just in terms of being a customer of theirs, and I was able to see some inefficiencies, and that's where VRScheduler kind of started, is just working with the companies in the resort town of Leavenworth here in Washington State.
So for the listeners, what is VR Scheduler and why is it so important for managers? Because I think it's actually, when it comes down to it, being immersed in the industry, doing what we do, a lot of us managers, thankfully I don't have to be on that part of the the business, but when it comes to the housekeeping and maintenance and all the other stuff that goes on, it can get quite hectic. So I want to hear a little bit more about VR Scheduler, what you guys do, and then of course why it's so important.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I kind of glossed over that.
That's okay.
So VR Scheduler is software that manages the staff and the tasks and all of your boots on the ground workers. So we basically import bookings from any source, whether you're on, Escapia or just using Airbnb, and we turn that into a schedule for your staff. It's pretty much fully automated. So once you get your rules in the system, those schedules are automatically generated. Those push out to your staff, so your staff can have dashboards in the field and they can mark things complete and use checklists, and basically set up the way that you want your staff to use it. And then as those things are marked complete and issues are submitted, it tracks all of those maintenance things as well. So the software basically is a comprehensive operations software for vacation rentals specifically. And as I said, it would manage all of your staff, all of your tasks, any maintenance issues that come in. And it also has components for payroll and billing. So it can kind of do that end-to-end work for you. The things that we don't actually cover is any guest communication or booking. So you would use this in conjunction with your booking software.
Yeah, so this is basically a back of house program for everybody involved in the flipping of the property, and then of course communication between the team.
Yep, exactly. You're exactly right. So this is for the housekeeping managers, the maintenance managers, everyone that's in the back of the house. And then reservationists can dip in to see what the status is of the properties and kind of see if they're ready for check-in and that kind of thing.
Okay. And so by any chance, this is kind of off topic or off schedule question, but
That's okay.
do the housekeepers take a picture? Do they submit anything to show that's up to standard? Or is it kind of, they're trained to the certain topic or the certain degree and it just kind of goes off of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our software is set up so that the managers can basically choose how they want to run their staff. Some property managers have staff that are really well trained and they've worked with them for a long time, so they don't want them pulling out their phone and taking pictures all the time. Other property managers work with new staff all the time, or maybe their owners are super picky. And in those cases, they can set up task forms where they can have them take multiple pictures and prove the work that was done through image uploading or image matching, checklists of any format. So the system is really flexible. The property managers can set up those task forms however they want. On the maintenance side, when a staff member runs into an issue on the property, like a stain in the carpet or a broken table, they can submit that immediately into the system.
Okay.
And they can take pictures of that maintenance item as well as description and categorize it. That gets submitted to the system, alerted out to the proper staff members, and it can be managed at that point.
So does it create like a ticket saying like, hey, this needs to be fixed before the next guest comes in?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
it basically creates a maintenance ticket, and then someone may have to sort of air traffic control that to the right person. But yeah, so they can see if there's any open issues on that property before that next guest comes in and decide if that's urgent or not.
Okay, awesome. And so this is kind of a two-part question, but how long have you been running as a company of VR Scheduler? And then of course, with this being a tech and like software business inside the hospitality and vacation rental space, what have been some challenges that you've seen just being, like I said, a software company inside, hospitality and vacation rentals?
So we've been up and running for about 4 years. And that's the answer to the first question. And then your second question, which is what are the challenges that we've seen being tech in a kind of a non-tech space, so to speak?
Well,
So first of all,
I was going to say also, it paints a picture, this is a business that was created off of a problem that you saw. So this is a solution.
yeah.
So I want to see, by providing the solution to managers and everybody else, maybe what are some, hurdles that you had to overcome? Obviously, been running for 4 years, so it's doing good. You're doing good, and you're making a difference. And I think it's super important to see, by providing a solution, it isn't always, it's not always going to be, smooth sailing, I guess is the right phrase.
Yeah, totally. And, I have to say, well, like we've seen a big shift in the last 4 years. I would say at the beginning, we worked with a lot, not a lot, but I would say maybe 50% or something of companies where the owner would come in and say, we want to be more efficient. We want to be more automated. We need to go into the future. We've been doing our schedules on a wall calendar or in Excel, and we're copying, pasting bookings, and, things are getting dropped, things are getting missed. And we just need to have everything organized so that we don't miss cleans, and we're not spending an enormous amount of time just getting our schedules dialed and then have a last minute booking come in and mess it all up. So the challenge to that is the owner sees the vision, but then the housekeeping manager is unwilling to change because they have, their heels dug in. What we're doing right now is working. I like my paper calendar. I like my Excel spreadsheet. I like these printouts. I like things to be on paper. Just that challenge with adopting change and trusting automation. And there's a big trust factor to the software because you're basically trusting that all of these tasks are getting generated the way you want them to. So once that hurdle is overcome, we've seen these housekeeping managers just really adopt this software. But if we can't overcome that challenge, it's either been shifting the staff or just, not adopting a software solution for that. So that's kind of what we've seen in the past. I think now in the last even year, it's been a little more smooth sailing where the people who we're seeing come in the door are ready for a software solution, and they're ready for full automation, and they're ready to really run their internal teams with really lean. And they need a solution that's going to make it so that they don't have to have, one person doing the scheduling all week long. That's just a little piece of their job. And then they're running other stuff as well.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I was also going to ask you, have you had to make any, obviously being a software, I'm assuming you probably have had to make some changes, tweaks, upgrades, that type of stuff. What's the difference from when you guys started to where you are today with the overall look and feel and operation of it?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say when we first started, we were definitely kind of finding our niche, so to speak, or the lane that we were staying in. And now we're solidly in the lane of we are just running operations. So we're not looking to communicate with guests or to touch that money side of things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would say at the beginning, we were mainly focused on the scheduling piece and making sure that the schedule was accurate and the rules for creating those schedules in a way that everything could be automated. Because if you think about it in the vacation rental world, last minute bookings can come in and rejigger your schedule at any moment. So that was our lane at the beginting. And as we listen to our customers, we work with anyone from a property manager to a cleaning company. We also work with a lot of house or hot tub companies. And all of those companies, the thing they have in common is that their schedule is based off of this vacation rental workflow. So check in, check out, mid-stay, mid-vacancy, even on a set schedule. As the company has progressed and as we've been listening to our company, we've brought into our set of features things like billing, payroll, laundry room reports. So just adding to our suite of services that comprehensive solution for the operations side of the business. All of our development is based off of our customers.
Okay.
So we really do listen to our customers and kind of distill that down into what would be the most helpful. I would say that the difference between the company at the beginning and the company now is that our development has slowed way down as we are sort of already providing so much functionality, and we want to make sure that anything we add is more helpful than hurtful to our customers.
Exactly. And it's something I've said with a couple other guests in the podcast, but it's like having an officer in the Army come in to lead a crew and they've never, done the job that they're leading them to do. And so, when you're that type of person versus a person who's been in the, the front lines, done the work, you have your own vacation rental. And then of course you are literally basing off of every, helpful, word or, idea from your clients on how to improve. That's where it makes a big difference, where you're like, oh, I'm just going to create this. I have never experienced vacation rentals or cleaning a property or flipping one, but
Right.
we're just going to do it. That makes a huge difference in I think success and overall just operation and flow. Now that you're at 4 years, it's kind of cool that you're not developing as much, because now you get to just run as a company, not have to constantly be updating and doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And I think, we do benefit from living in a vacation rental town, because I can literally go down the street and sit in the office of some of my customers and just ask them questions and talk to the actual housekeepers or to the maintenance people and look at the dashboards and say, what's going on here?
For sure.
So that's been amazing. And it's fun. It's fun. It's good.
It is really fun. Well, I want to talk about a certain pivot you've made during this time of COVID-19 and the pandemic, at hand with the cleaning certification. So I've done housekeeping in the past in my history and background of hospitality and hotels. But what made you kind of go towards this pivot? I want to understand, why you created the cleaning certification course, and then of course the significance of it. Even though it's pretty obvious with COVID-19, but still I think it's a good thing to dive into.
Yeah, I appreciate talking about this because I'm very passionate about the cleaning course. So basically the history of that is I was talking to a few of my customers, and we were all talking about how the protocols and cleaning procedures would need to change based on the guidelines out there by organizations like the CDC and the WHO. And what I sort of realized is that everyone was doing the same research and everyone was trying to figure out how to train their staff. And I kind of took it upon myself to say, why don't we all pool our efforts, and so that we're not all doing the exact same research, and we can come up with one program that is easy for our housekeeping staff to use, and we can all share it, and that would save everyone time and effort and just the headache of distilling all of this information down into like one piece of information that the housekeepers can remember. And so in doing that, of course I took it on myself because that's my nature. I realized that the easiest way to get that into the housekeeping staff would be through an online course. One, because you don't really want to pull everyone into the same room. That defies all social distancing rules at this point. And two, because then they could do it at home, online, self-paced, without the pressure of like having a manager stare at them. And if we could do the courses in a way that were short little lessons followed by quizzes, that would be a really great way for them to remember the information. I kind of based it off of, if you've ever taken a food handler's permit.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've recently taken my food handler's permit because I actually run a bike event here in Leavenworth for little kids called Bike and Juice. And it was so easy to I watched that video, I took the course, and I literally remembered almost every single thing in there just because of the way it was presented. So I based the course off of the way that was delivered, just to make sure that the boots on the ground people, the housekeepers, the maintenance staff would easily be able to remember when to stay home, how to wash your hands, how to put on and take off gloves, how to dispose of them, how to go from a dirty task to a clean task, like all of the just really basic information delivered in a way that they can remember it and implement it easily into their current cleaning procedures.
I totally agree. And for all the listeners listening, I took the course, and now that you said it, the food handler's permit, that like it does remind me a lot of that, because that's what I did in high school. I remember that course so vividly. And then also the importance of, I think, if I was not in the in the Army National Guard, not doing the COVID-19 stuff that I'm doing now, I don't think this would have made as much, like, I don't know. I know the stuff that was being talked about. So for me, it was like, of course, like I know this. But if I did not have that training previously, this would all been brand new to me. I especially remember the importance of, like taking off a pair of gloves is that's like one of the biggest things that we see on the front lines right now during this COVID-19 response is people do not know how to take off gloves. And that's like been the biggest cross contamination, as well as people going from a clean to dirty. So creating those hot and cold zones. And then of course, how to dispose of the garbage. We the bio bags, as we call them. It's super important, because I don't think without this type of training, you wouldn't know how, like, the glove thing is so huge that most people don't know that, go inside, palm it, do the same thing. And so I just, from my side personally, I totally think this is something, if you've never had training in, you should. And if you don't, you need to, because especially with the transition of everything opening up, this is going to be key. And this is what is going to lead into another, certain topic. But trust and transparency with guests and your team and everybody involved on the property is key. I obviously want to open up the floor back to you, but that's just kind of my 2 cents on the training. I took the course. It's totally worth every single second. It's very quick and it's very informative. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of nailing all the important concepts, is that we want the course to be quick. We want it to be memorable. We want to teach those basic concepts. And it's also super affordable, because we want to make sure that any housekeeper can take it, even if they're a self-employed 1099 housekeeper. These people don't get a lot of support. They don't have a lot of, a lot of times they don't have a lot of funds that are extra. The course is literally $20, and you get a certificate at the end. So I think it just will support our boots on the ground, our housekeepers, our maintenance people, even if they have to pay for it themselves. Like, we want to make sure that they're able to stay safe. We also are giving away, I know I'm kind of, I don't know if this is appropriate time to talk about this. You can cut this out if you want to. We are giving away courses to anyone who is a recipient of the Housekeeper Relief Fund. Mm-hmm. This is a fund set up by Cliff Johnson from rented.com to also help support housekeepers who are in need during this time. We're giving $1 from every course purchased to this fund, and anyone who's a recipient of the fund gets a free course as well. So if you can't afford the course, you can reach directly out to me, or you can reach out to the Housekeeper Relief Fund, and we're happy to give you free courses. And because our primary intent is to keep those people safe. Yeah.
And I'll also second that. If you can't afford it, or if you want to get this for your team, I will also donate and purchase a handful and make sure that everyone is getting able to, get these resources, just because I feel it is important. We, something we definitely overlook, or at least overlooked in the industry. I think, obviously it was kind of an unspoken standard of cleanliness and just overall operations and flow. But I think now everyone's very much more alert. I know I am. Like, every door handle I touch, every time I touch my face, I'm like, oh, dang it. Like, what the heck? So I think it's going to be hit on a lot. And so I think just the overall importance of this is really, really key. So again, just to reiterate what Jill just said, if you guys can't afford it, or if you know a team or a company that just needs a boost and a helping hand, just reach out to any of us and we'll get you guys all taken care of.
Primary goal is to those people safe, right? And to slow the spread. Okay.
No, exactly. 100%, 100%. So with these certifications and badges, there comes a certification number. And so I want to talk about this certain aspect of it, just because for the people that have been following the show, we're seeing, I think, a new shift and a change in the industry with this type of technology and this type of process. So we've had IPRAC on the show, which is based out in London and also Spain, I believe, Spain and London. And so what they're a certification company that certifies vacation rental managers in order to protect against fraud and all these other horrible things that happen, unfortunately. And so let's talk about why it's so important to have this number on the cleaning certification and this type of technology that, verifies certain people's certifications as well as companies, and also kind of the importance of where you got that from and who's helped with the idea and the inspiration, and of course all this other good stuff. So
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up IPRAC, because Chris Mon, who's the founder of IPRAC, was a huge component of me developing this certification program. I spent a long time talking to him about how to make sure that we're providing a lot of value to the guests as well as to the housekeepers. I come from the housekeeper world, so my primary focus and my primary kind of background comes from the housekeeper perspective, but he was really able to educate me on how to really get that guest trust piece solidified in the program. And that basically will entail every property manager that sends their staff through the training. So every single one of their staff members have to take the training and basically learn all of the basics: how to wash your hands, when to stay home, all of those things that are very important right now. They'll receive a badge with a number on it. That number can then be sent out in all of your marketing materials, and then the guest can come to the website, plug in that badge number, and see that you are verified. So it closes that loop on guest trust, so that they have a way to verify that you're actually a cleaning certification badge holder, and they can see exactly the protocols that you've been following, which are basically just that staff training piece. We truly feel like any badge system that's coming out right now has to be backed by training. The property manager can say they're going to do anything, but unless their staff is properly trained or has been educated in the current protocols, that doesn't really hold water. So these badge numbers, again, Chris from IPRAC has been so helpful in understanding how this whole process works. But basically the guest can take the badge number, look it up on the website, and feel completely confident and 100% ready to book. We do have some stats on what's happened. I know I feel like I'm jumping ahead a little bit here.
No, this is great. No, I was just going to ask you, what have you guys seen, from the increase of people listing, the certification on their site and everything like that?
Yeah. So to be honest, we've done case studies with just a couple of our users of the badge so far. I mean, it's a brand new program, so we're just trying to get those case studies in-house. But the number one thing that we've been hearing back from the people using the badge is that the amount of customer service around inquiries with their cleaning protocols has gone to zero. So any property that's listed with the badge listed on their listing image has completely eliminated that back and forth. What are your cleaning protocols? What are you doing for COVID? It just has completely instilled that trust piece. And we've seen that those badge numbers are actually getting looked up on our website.
Oh, wow.
So we're not sure at what point the guest has that amount of trust, but it's definitely solving that problem of communication to the guests quickly. In terms of bookings, we do have a couple case studies that are showing that bookings are increasing far beyond our expectations. I can send you a screenshot of one of our customers' booking increases, but basically they put a badge on one of their beachfront luxury properties and not on the other one, and they had been getting the same occupancy rate all through the whole year. They put the badge on one of the properties on May 20th, and their occupancy rate for both properties at that time were at about 48%. On June 3rd, the property without the badge was at 51% occupancy, and the property with the badge was at 91% occupancy.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a big jump.
So it's a huge jump, and the property manager is like really ready to just talk to anyone in the world about this. So he's beyond thrilled, and he's like, I'm going to put the badge on the other one. And I'm like, wait, just hold on. I want to get a little more statistics, but it's hard to talk people into, getting less bookings on any property right now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, you can make some money, but let me learn really quick.
Exactly. Can you just give me a week?
Exactly. So I guess this is kind of off, guide, I guess as well, but do you think this means that we're going to start seeing the guest booking behavior change? Because I think it was everybody wants instant book. They just want to find a property that they can imagine themselves at. Now that everyone's more aware, do you think this is going to change the booking process? They're going to take a little bit more time to digging into this type of, stuff? Because I know a lot of people have been getting inquiries like, what are you doing for COVID? How are you cleaning your sheets or your countertops or blah, 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 blah. But I guess I might be answering my own question, but I think this is probably going to be a pretty big shift, at least for the coming future.
Yeah, I mean, I am going to be a little contrary here, but I don't think so.
Really? Okay.
Just from talking to my customers, I don't think that people care much. I think they care, but I think they're mostly still concerned with the location and their family and the experience and all of those things that they've cared about the whole time. Mm-hmm. And this is just another box to check, So they're still going to be looking for the same experience that they've gotten in the past. I mean, I know that's going to shift a little bit because of, social distancing and those types of things. But I really don't think that people are going to want something different. I think they're going to want the exact same thing. And this is just another box that they want to check. It's like, what's the return policy? Check. What's the cleaning policy? Check. So if you can provide them with that assurance easily, then they can go back to shopping the way they normally shop.
Gotcha. So if the property had no badge, they would probably inquire, what are you cleaning? Because obviously they want the experience that they see, but they're still curious.
Yes.
Versus, let's say they still see the same experience, but then they see the badge and they look it up and like, no, okay, this is trained. This is what they do. They don't have to inquire. They can still book and just have that confidence immediately.
Yep.
Okay.
It just reduces that barrier to entry. It's just like smooths the experience out. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so do you see more? So this is the next question I kind of had planned out was, do you see the industry starting to shift towards this type of trust and verification, not only in cleaning, but in other areas as well?
Yeah, I think so, just because it's becoming a more mature industry. So I feel like we're shifting into a place where there's going to be more standards across the board. Mm-hmm. And more business organizations that bring together competitors to create those standards. So I think that, obviously this is a very new industry and it's very exciting because it's new. But as you look at other industries that are much older, you see that there are these sort of business organizations that help set these standards. And one of the primary benefits of that is it keeps it out of government regulation. Yeah. So I think, the industry really is aware of how much the government can control in our industry. And we want to make sure that any standards or guidelines are set by the industry and not by the government.
Completely agree.
If that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah. So that's. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would say a lot of other guests on the show have also been saying, like, Jeremy Gall, and then of course David Cross from Rent Responsibly. I think a lot of people are starting to, and another big, I think, disruptor or player in the industry, Matt Landau, who's got the Unlocked podcast. We've been talking amongst each other in the professional field. I think the bar is being raised. Everyone could have just listed their property on Airbnb and gotten away with it. But now with, I think, a lot of variables and factors, not that it's a new industry, but there's a lot of new, growth in the industry recently with the rise of OTAs, and then of course, like Airbnb and everything else. Now the standard is being raised because like, okay, almost everyone can enter. Now we need to close that barrier a little bit because we're letting some bad apples ruin everything, such as letting the bad apples cause government involvement. And now I think, like you just said, the industry is saying, no, we need to raise it for our sake so that way we keep control, because we are one of the most creative industries and most entrepreneurial based type. Every guest I've had on the show has been an entrepreneur in some way, because they've saw an issue, they provided a solution, and it just creates that standard and that trust raising.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like literally the wild, wild west out here, right?
Yeah.
So anyone and everyone can list their, kid's bedroom on Airbnb and book it out for a night or whatever. But yeah, I think you're totally right. Like the bar needs to be raised. And if we can do it as an industry and keep it out of government, that's going to be the best case scenario for the industry. And I do think that Jeremy and Breezeway are doing a great job at that safety component as well. And also Alex Neggett Properly has, a hand in this whole thing. And honestly, like the three of us have talked about, what it would take to pull something together. I don't know, obviously we're competitors, so I'm not sure, what that would look like, but I think that would be an ideal scenario, is for, the competition to come together and put together some best practices and some guidelines that would drive the whole industry. And I'm mostly looking at it from the cleaning and safety side of things. And I know Chris from iPrac is looking at it from the owner verification and that trust piece. So, I don't really know what that looks like in the future, but I know I want to be a part of it.
No, for sure. And competition aside, this is, I think, the coolest part about hospitality, and like Eric Moeller and a few other people who have really just been industry disruptors in a lot of ways. Competition aside, this is our industry, and we are the most, I think, unique, because when other people are fighting each other in other industries and trying to compete for the top dollar, we come together, whether we're competitors or not, and it's very much united front, where I don't think you find that in most industries. So either way, and that's why I like the podcast too, is like, because
we are in hospitality.
Exactly, right. But I want to kind of lead into another passionate topic. How does this really, you kind of touched base obviously with the reflection of putting the badge on one luxury property and not on the other, and the increase of occupancy, but how does this increase in direct bookings? Now, so I know the badge and the certification can be placed on marketing material as well as website, but what do you think this is going to play in the direct book movement?
Yeah, well, so in my opinion, people should be using the OTAs as lead gen, right? So they're pulling in new people from Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com. But once they're in their company profile, if they have them in their marketing list, then they can use this badge to remarket to people. Anyone who's stayed on your property in the past, anyone who's coming directly to your website should be able to see that badge. So include it in your email newsletters, in your marketing materials. And if people are feeling nervous about traveling right now, maybe it's just going to take one email in their inbox because they've stayed with your property before, they had a good experience, and they just need to tick off again that last piece, that I feel safe going there. So I would definitely recommend that property managers include the badge or the verbiage in their email newsletters out to past guests and past contacts. And I do think that it will, increase their bookings, because people who are maybe nervous to travel might get pushed over that, that little hurdle.
Agreed. And like Andrew McConnell has said, and Damian Sheridan have said, and everybody else on the podcast when we talk about direct bookings, it's not always just about getting it directly from your site. It's about getting it from anything like Airbnb, VRBO, booking, all this other stuff. And then it's book redirect. So get them no matter whatever OTA or source you get them from, but now it's your turn, your opportunity to get them again, but directly. If you don't advertise to them by doing an email or placing the badge out and on social platforms and all these other ways, right? Then you're dropping the ball, because it's your job to redirect them back to you, not through the site that they're on for 30 seconds to book. Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, totally. And, I was on another panel where we were talking about marketing during this time, and this is a great time to think outside the box. So if you are looking to target these people who normally travel internationally, who are now staying closer to home, think about how they used to book and catch them there. So if they used to book through REI, or if they used to book through a local travel agency, talk to that travel agency, show them that you have the badge, show them that you're paying attention, and maybe they'll include you in their marketing materials, and that's how you can also direct book. So thinking outside the box as to who your target audience is during this time, and how can you reach them.
For sure. Well, I think that's a great final touch on that nice, I guess, presentation right there. So in conclusion, I want to go ahead and give you the opportunity to give out any shout outs, and more information on where people can find you. Obviously, I always include everything in the show notes as well as the site. So for any listener, slicktalkthepodcast.com, there's a link. You can go to it. You can find out more information about the cleaning certification in VRScheduler, as well as contact info if you want to get the course through me or through Jill. And then, of course, Jill can take it from here on more information and all that good stuff.
Sure. Okay. So if you want to learn more about VRScheduler and how you can run your operations leaner and more efficiently, go to vrscheduler.com. You can sign up for a free one-on-one demo there. You can actually sign up for a free trial. And I encourage you to do so. If you are interested in the cleaning certification program and keeping your staff and housekeepers safe, as well as your guests, you can go to cleaningsertification.com. Use the coupon code SlickTalk for 10% off any course. The courses are only $20. You can run your whole staff through the course. You can get yourself a badge and increase your bookings. I also have to shout out to Chris at iPrac for helping to develop the whole overall system. Thanks, Chris. Go to iPrac to learn more about your increasing guest trust through verifying your owners. And shout out to Slick Talk.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.